Dawn hemorrhages across Charlestown Peninsula. June 17, 1775. 1,000 colonial farmers scrape earth with bleeding hands. Racing sunrise. British cannons sleep below. Soon they'll wake hungry. These men dig their own graves, calling them trenches. Death's architecture. William Prescott strips his coat, climbs the earthworks. British warships could erase him instantly. He spreads his arms wide, inviting death to try. Below, exhausted farmers see their commander mock mortality itself. Shovels bite deeper. Dawn approaches like judgment. You believe revolution starts with eloquent documents? Wrong. It ignites when grocers and blacksmiths choose obliteration over subjugation. Tonight, Massachusetts farmers prepare to educate an empire. Freedom's tuition gets paid in blood, not pounds sterling. Class begins at sunrise. 12-year-old John Quincy Adams scales Braintree Hill beside Mother Abigail. 7 miles distant, Charlestown hemorrhages smoke. The future president memorizes war's geography. Abigail's whisper cuts morning air. Witness this carefully, son. Democracy requires rememberers. History chooses its students young. Admiral Samuel Graves wakes to impossibility. Rebels have crowned the heights overnight, transforming farmers into chess pieces that checkmate his fleet. The Royal Navy, unconquered for centuries, suddenly discovers vulnerability. Empires die from such discoveries. This one begins its inevitable decay. Peter Salem loads muskets, his enslaved hands working beside whites who yesterday wouldn't acknowledge his humanity. War makes philosophers of bigots, brothers of enemies. He fights for freedom he'll never taste. Sometimes the bitter irony of hope sustains us. British officers dress like peacocks attending their own funeral. Scarlet wool, polished brass, powdered wigs, parade ground perfection. They'll assault a hill in ceremonial costume. Fashion kills more soldiers than strategy. Pride dresses its victims beautifully before completely destroying them. Transformation happens violently. Watch. Subjects becoming citizens, merchants becoming killers. 13 scattered colonies discovering shared identity through shared bloodshed. 2,300 men will climb this hill. Most will descend. But those who fall will fertilize a nation's violent birth. Dr. Joseph Warren abandons his Cambridge practice for a borrowed musket. The 34-year-old physician refuses command, chooses common danger. Real leaders eat last, sleep least, die first. By sunset, Boston will need a new doctor. Democracy demands such payments. Drums birth their funeral rhythm. 2,300 redcoats crystallize into geometric death. 60 pounds of equipment per man, June heat crushing wool-wrapped bodies. That hill looks gentle from below. Distance lies. Gravity doesn't. Mathematics will murder hundreds before noon. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Prescott's command encodes desperation as strategy. Limited powder, no bayonets, untrained farmers facing European killers. One volley must count. Patience becomes a weapon when ammunition runs dangerously short. Major John Pitcairn leads Marines upward. 2 months ago, his pistol started this revolution at Lexington. Now he climbs toward peasants he's promised to hang. Contempt makes men stupid. His corpse will prove this theorem before tea time arrives. Hidden stakes shred British formations. Colonial innovation. European armies expect European rules. But revolution rewrites rule books using native warfare, guerrilla tactics, democratic violence. The empire stumbles through tall grass, discovering that assumptions kill more soldiers than bullets ever could. Israel Potter observes sweat transforming red uniforms into soaked shrouds. London tailored these costumes for ceremony, not combat. Appearance matters more than function in empires. Fatal philosophy. These men will die beautiful, organized, and utterly surprised by their mortality. 50 yards. 30. 20. Colonial fingers tremble against triggers. Behind crude dirt walls, Christians prepare to commit murder. Some vomit fear. Others leak tears. All wait for Prescott's word that will transform farmers into killers, permanently. Innocence ends today. What haunts a man before his first killing? These farmers see enemies as humans, with wives, children, dreams. But tyranny wears human faces. To destroy systems, you destroy people. Revolution's arithmetic: subtract lives, add liberty. Brutal equation. Necessary mathematics. Fire, muskets birth thunder. Smoke blinds everyone. Silence. Then screaming. The hillside becomes an abattoir carpeted in scarlet wool. Officers fall first. Farmers understand leadership targeting. Headless armies become mobs. Strategic assassination disguised as amateur warfare. Accidental brilliance wins wars. Private Thomas Moore watches his lieutenant's skull explode into pink mist. The 17-year-old recruit pivots, sprints downhill, trampling wounded brothers. Cowardice will haunt him forever. But shame tastes better than dirt. Living with dishonor beats dying with meaningless glory. The retreat isn't retreat, it's liquefied panic. Elite conquistadors who subjugated continents now flee like mice from cats. Officers shriek orders into chaos. Nobody listens. The empire's dignity dissolves into grass and gore. Humiliation hurts worse than any bullets. Salem Poor methodically executes officers. 3 dead, more coming. Each shot earns respect from neighbors who will chain him again tomorrow. He's purchasing recognition with British blood, knowing the receipt expires at sunset. Freedom's down payment, other people's lives, not yours. Listen, comfortable viewer, you've never counted enemy footsteps while rationing gunpowder. Never tasted terror mixed with smoke. These farmers are manufacturing your liberty one corpse at a time. Your freedom grows from their fear. Remember that permanent debt. General William Howe recognizes faces among defenders, his dead brother's comrades from the French War. Family loved these men. Now duty demands he butcher them. Empires feed on such betrayals. Choose, honor your brother or your king. Choose immediately. Second assault. British soldiers use their dead as stepping stones. Blood makes grass treacherous. Men slip, rise, slip again. Some aren't wounded, just exhausted. Heat plus fear plus 60 pounds equals collapse. War is athletics with mortal consequences attached. Prescott counts powder horns. Nearly empty. Maybe one volley remains. He swallows this truth, smiles at his men. Leaders digest disasters privately. His silence might kill everyone, but panic definitely will. Sometimes leadership means choosing between calculated lies. 16-year-old Amos Farnsworth writes between volleys, "We are not afraid to die for liberty." His shaking hands betray the lie. But courage isn't fearlessness, it's action despite terror. His journal will outlive him by centuries. Words transcend mortality. Always. The British adapt, dropping equipment, loosening formations, learning from humiliation. Evolution accelerates under fire. Howe is smart enough to recognize that pride is deadlier than any colonial marksman. Wisdom arrives late to empires, but sometimes it actually arrives. Cannonball decapitates Asa Pollard. His body walks 3 more steps before understanding it's dead. Other defenders freeze, witnessing physics mock biology. Death sometimes forgets its own rules. War teaches lessons no university offers. Reality exceeds imagination's wildest boundaries. Charlestown becomes a crematorium. British artillery ignites 400 homes to eliminate snipers. Generations of memories transform into smoke. Families watch ancestry evaporate. Revolution's bill includes everything you've built, everyone you've loved. Freedom costs more than breathing lives. Philosophy birthed in gunpowder. What transforms subjects into citizens? Not declarations, not laws. This shared sacrifice. When strangers bleed for each other's tomorrow, they stop being strangers. Nations are built from mixing blood, not ink. Violence writes actual constitutions. Captain Thomas Knowlton calculates doom. 6 rounds per man, maybe less. The Connecticut teacher understands the equation, more British than bullets. Mathematical certainty of defeat. Yet they stay. Sometimes losing correctly matters more than winning. Principle transcends simple pragmatism. Third assault. Different. Silent. Bayonets fixed, drums muted. Just hundreds of steel points catching afternoon sun like metallic rain. They've graduated from rage to methodology. Expensive education, purchased with corpses. The British have learned to hate with efficiency. Dr. Warren bandages wounds until the final second. A musket ball finds his left eye socket. The physician who might have been president dies instantly, his blood mixing with patients' blood. Democracy demands such martyrs. Always has. Always will require. Powder's gone. Terror's truth spoken aloud. Farmers grab stones, fence posts, anything. They'll fight professional killers with garden tools. David had 1 stone plus faith. They have neither. Just the fury of men with no retreat routes available. Peter Salem watches Pitcairn scale the earthworks. The major who sparked revolution at Lexington screams victory prematurely. Salem's musket holds 1 ball. He aims at history's throat. An enslaved finger squeezes. Pitcairn falls backward. Empires stumble exactly like this. I have lost my father. Pitcairn's son cradles the dying major. Wars are factories where children watch parents perish, where fathers bury sons before their time. Every flag gets stitched with family grief. Glory always orphans someone innocent. Retreat begins, organized withdrawal, not panic. Prescott commands the rear guard, walking backward, sword drawn, daring pursuit. Leaders retreat last, facing danger while others flee. Anyone seeking command should memorize this moment. Authority means being the last to safety. Bayonets chase farmers into forest. No ammunition, no options, only steel versus speed. Some surrender, others run. Many die. Defeat tastes metallic, like blood and copper coins and dirt mixed with tears. Victory's inverse recipe. Bitter medicine, this violent learning. The arithmetic of revolution, 450 British corpses, 226 colonial dead. But mathematics lies. Every body was somebody's universe. Mothers don't mourn statistics. They mourn faces. Numbers cannot capture what widows lose. Never could. Never will. Israel Putnam loads cannons at Bunker Hill's neck, covering retreat. The veteran knows they've lost tactically but won strategically. The British took dirt but proved they bleed. Empires fear bleeding. It suggests mortality. Today, the empire bled profusely everywhere. Night brings shovels. British soldiers bury enemies beside friends. Death democratizes uniforms. Tomorrow they'll resume killing. Tonight they share exhaustion and earth. Some prayers sound identical in different accents. God, presumably, translates suffering into something universal. Or perhaps doesn't care. Philadelphia receives news. Continental Congress understands immediately. Americans can fight professionally. They can die properly. They can make empires hurt. Sometimes that knowledge alone births nations. Confidence is a weapon. Today, colonials discovered they possessed it in abundance. General Howe writes victory, but his hand shakes. More officers died today than in a decade of European warfare. Farmers with hunting rifles did this. Impossible made manifest. His report will terrify London more than any defeat ever could. Boston's hospitals overflow. British and American blood pools on surgical tables. Doctors ignore uniforms. Pain has no nationality. Later, they'll separate the living by loyalty. The dead need no sorting. Graves don't check credentials. Earth accepts all victims equally. Young John Quincy Adams remains on Braintree Hill past midnight. Charlestown still burns. He asks his mother who won. Abigail responds that winning isn't always about winning. Some lessons require decades to understand. This is definitely one. Patience. Here's what history hides. Most fighters were under 25. Children killing children while graybeards watched from safety. Revolution feeds young bodies to old ideas. Every generation sacrifices its offspring to abstractions. Freedom, justice, honor. Hungry concepts, these immortal vampires. 92 British officers dead. The colonial strategy worked: decapitate leadership. Armies become sheep without shepherds. These farmers understood Rome's wisdom: kill commanders, scatter followers. Sometimes the desperate accidentally discover genius. Necessity mothers tactics that textbooks will later canonize forever. British soldiers collect colonial weapons as trophies. Hunting rifles, fowling pieces, grandfather's muskets. David's sling was just leather and stone. Goliath's armor was magnificent. The weapon rarely matters. The wielder's desperation does. Desperate men make extremely dangerous enemies. London's letter demands immediate rebellion crushing. Too late. When farmers make professionals run, when sacrifice becomes contagious, when death seems reasonable, that's when subjects become revolutionaries. Chemistry, not choice. The reaction started. No stopping it now. Watch everything burn. Statistical translation: 40% casualties. In corporate terms, imagine removing half your co-workers permanently by lunchtime. That's what climbing this hill cost the British. Numbers become nightmares when personalized properly. Mathematics can't capture trauma, only illustrate its cold dimensions. Cambridge hosts an army without powder, weapons, food, or training. But they possess something London can't ship across the Atlantic: the memory of making an empire run. Morale matters more than muskets. Confidence kills more enemies than cannons destroy. Every hill around Boston now terrifies British sentries. What if farmers fortify another tonight? Paranoia spreads like pox through camps. They won Breed's Hill but lost invincibility's illusion. Assumptions kill empires faster than armies. Britain just lost its founding assumptions. George Washington arrives 2 weeks later, finding an army baptized in British blood. Still farmers, but transformed. Violence changes people permanently. They've tasted empire's mortality and liked the flavor. There's no forgetting that taste. War's permanent seasoning corrupts everything. Bunker Hill didn't start revolution, Lexington did. Didn't end it, Yorktown would. But it proved Americans would die for ideas. That terrified London more than any military defeat. Ideas can't be bayoneted, can't be conquered, only surrendered to, eventually. Widows gather at Charlestown's ashes. Their husbands died for abstractions: liberty, representation, rights. Abstractions don't harvest crops or raise children. These women will spend lifetimes paying for their husbands' 15 minutes of heroism. Glory's invoice always arrives eventually. Native Americans watch from distant hills. Whites killing whites over stolen land. The Iroquois word for revolution translates, "they eat each other." Sometimes outsiders see clearest. This isn't liberation. It's replacement. New thieves evicting old ones. Nothing more. Monuments rise after 10 years. Lafayette visits after 30. Last veterans die after 50. But Earth remains. Stone and soil outlast the men who bleed on them. Always. Hills remember nothing. That's why humans build monuments. Memory requires maintenance. Bunker Hill's truth: nobody won. Everybody lost something irreplaceable. But from loss came birth, a nation conceived in violence, dedicated to propositions written in Philadelphia, tested in blood here. Democracy's labor pains: messy, necessary, painful, productive, permanent, unforgettable. You walk free because farmers face professional killers on this hill. They didn't win, didn't need to. They proved that ordinary people could make empires bleed. That proof echoes through centuries. Your liberty grows from their desperate courage. Every revolution begins with someone saying no. Not in assemblies or newspapers, but on hills like this where no becomes gunfire, becomes corpses, becomes history. The British took the hill. Americans took tomorrow. Geography versus time. Time always wins. Bunker Hill's lesson isn't about victory. It's about the morning after defeat when you choose between quitting and continuing. The colonials lost, then kept fighting for 8 more years. That stubbornness is why you're free today. Remember it well. Peter Salem, Salem Poor, black soldiers who fought for freedom they wouldn't receive for 90 more years. They knew the promise was a lie. Fought anyway. That's courage, believing in tomorrow's possibility despite today's betrayal. Faith transcending brutal experience. William Prescott survived battle, war, and revolution. Died peacefully in 1795, forgotten. Most heroes don't die heroically. They die in beds, their glory faded to sepia photographs nobody recognizes. Time murders memory more thoroughly than bullets murder bodies. Uncomfortable truth: freedom requires violence. Always has. Power never voluntarily shares itself. Someone must take it. That taking costs blood. Bunker Hill taught this to farmers who became founders. Your comfort grows from their discomfort. Acknowledge that permanent debt. The hill hosts picnics now. Children play where Warren died. Ice cream trucks park where Pitcairn fell. Tourists photograph dirt that drank blood. This is victory, when battlefields become playgrounds. When gore becomes grass. When memory becomes mythology. June 17, 1775. Remember that date. Not for the battle, but for the lesson. Ordinary people can shatter empires. They must simply decide that dying standing surpasses living kneeling. That decision changes worlds. Forever. Starting right now. Today,